Boxing fans, this one is going to split opinions right down the middle. Jake Paul has responded to Terence Crawford's bold prediction ahead of Paul versus Gervonta, Tank Davis, and the conversation around size, skill, and risk is now front and center. The exhibition is set for November 14th at the Casillas Center in Miami, streaming live on Netflix, and yes, there will be an official winner announced. Before we dive into the full breakdown, tap subscribe, hit the like button, and drop your prediction in the comments. Does Jake Paul's size and right hand power carry tonight, or does Tank Davis's elite timing and finishing ability make the difference? Stay with us for full context, from Crawford's take to Paul's response, and the latest on a potential Canelo-Alvarez showdown. Let's start with the matchup itself. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis is a crossover event with genuine intrigue. On paper, the physical disparity is dramatic. Paul stands 6 feet 1 inch. His last outing came at cruiserweight, and that places him 7 weight classes above Davis, the reigning WBA lightweight champion. By comparison, Davis has made his name dismantling world-class opponents at 135, where his combination of speed, IQ, and explosive power has made him one of the most feared finishers in boxing. An 8-inch height advantage and a significant reach edge for Paul have fueled debates across social media and sports talk, with many asking the same question: how will Tank safely close the distance against a larger, longer opponent in a full-size ring? Despite the format being an exhibition, this won't be a casual walkthrough. Organizers have confirmed that a winner will be announced, which means both fighters will approach this like a high-stakes contest. The rules set in round structure are designed for action while keeping safety within standard parameters, but the competitive element is very real. This is a showcase for Netflix's growing presence in live boxing events, a headline night in Miami, and a meeting between two of the biggest names in American boxing culture, one an established world champion, the other a crossover headliner with a proven audience and improving fundamentals. Jake Paul reiterated all of that in a sit-down with Netflix Sports. He called the matchup crazy in the best sense of the word. Two huge names in the sport, two very different physical profiles, and a fight that he believes is genuinely 50-50. He credited Davis's experience and skill set, while making it clear that size is the equalizer. In Paul's words, that's exactly what makes this fight interesting. The outcome isn't obvious. He leaned into the uncertainty, stressing that when you put elite timing against modern size and strength, no one really knows what happens until that first bell rings. That stance also set the tone for his response to Terence Crawford's prediction. Crawford went on the Full Send podcast and said he believes Jake Paul will beat Davis, citing Paul's size and power as the decisive factors. Crawford didn't mince words. He said Paul is just too big, and if Jake lands a clean right hand, the fight could be over with. He also pushed back on the narrative that Paul is slow, pointing out that Jake's right hand is a legitimate weapon and his athleticism is better than detractors give him credit for. Paul didn't fire back with trash talk. Instead, he folded Crawford's view into his broader message. Tank's skill and experience are real, but size matters when both men are committed and prepared. He framed this as a true test of styles. Speed and precision from a pound-for-pound elite versus a bigger, stronger fighter who's no longer a novelty act. Paul has been building a boxing foundation over the last few years, learning to use his jab, setting traps, and protecting himself defensively between exchanges. He's aware that against Davis, he'll need more than a highlight right hand. He'll need controlled distance, tie up smartly when Tank slips inside, and be disciplined with his shot selection. The other headline that keeps resurfacing is Jake Paul's interest in a future Canelo-Alvarez bout. When asked directly if he still wants Canelo, Paul didn't hedge. He said the Canelo fight remains massive and will be an incredible challenge. Two of the biggest draws in the sport meeting on a global stage. But he was clear about his priorities. November 14th comes first, and nothing else matters until he gets through Tank Davis. That's the right message for the moment, and it keeps the focus exactly where it should be. There's important context behind the Canelo talk. Earlier this year, Paul's team was in advanced discussions for a potential showdown. But Canelo signed a lucrative deal with Riyadh Season instead, aligning with Turkey Alashik and shifting his calendar to blockbuster events under that banner. As part of that agreement, Canelo fought Terence Crawford in September, taking on the pound-for-pound star in a mega event that dominated the combat sports conversation. According to those close to the negotiations, Canelo still has 2 fights remaining on his Riyadh season contract, which means any future Paul fight would have to work within that framework and timing. It's a major business storyline to watch. But for now, Paul is keeping his focus on Miami and the challenge in front of him. Back to November 14th. The style matchup is fascinating at every level. Davis is a southpaw, a compact puncher with elite timing. His ability to read patterns, bait counters, and level change from head to body has broken down bigger men before, but rarely someone with a full combination of height, reach, and mass that Paul brings. Davis's success hinges on making the ring small. He has to get to Jake's chest, strip away the jab, and take advantage of Paul's mid-range habits. Tank's left hand is a danger, but his right hook and the finishing sequences off his slip counters are just as devastating. If he can step outside Jake's lead foot and shoot the straight left over the top, he can close the size gap in a single moment. Paul's job is to keep this a long-range contest as often as possible. He has to make the jab count. Touch, then commit. He'll need to find Tank's guard and probe the high line, then drop level to the body to slow the entries. Clinching isn't glamorous, but it will be essential. When Davis gets inside, Paul has to smother, force the reset, and get back to center ring. The right hand Crawford mentioned only becomes a factor if Paul wins the geography of the fight. Down the stretch, conditioning and composure matter just as much as power. Miami crowd will want a show. The smarter fighter will want rounds banked and momentum managed. The public reaction to Crawford's pick has been mixed, which is no surprise. Some fans agree that weight and reach, especially in an exhibition format, create a natural advantage for Paul. Others believe that Davis's explosiveness, footwork, and counterpunching will carve a path even in a larger ring. It's a classic collision, cruiserweight dimensions versus lightweight brilliance. Even veteran analysts admit that in matchups like this, the fundamentals matter more than reputations. If Paul keeps his base under him and takes away Tank's angles, he can extend exchanges where his size counts. If Tank drags him into half-beat traps and attacks the body, the size fades as the minutes tick by. There's also the setting to consider. The Casillas Center, Miami, is built for spectacle. It's a venue that knows how to stage big moments, and Netflix's platform ensures the event will be visible far beyond traditional boxing audiences. That matters. Paul has always thrived in high-visibility environments, turning the lights and the noise into energy. Davis is no stranger to massive nights either. He's headlined arenas across the United States, delivered viral knockouts under pressure, and held his form in the face of intense promotion. This isn't a case of one man being dazzled by the stage. It's a convergence of star power with clashing physical profiles. In terms of broader implications, this fight sits at the intersection of entertainment and elite craft. On one side, you have Gervonta Davis, a world champion with a resume built on quality wins, one-punch finishes, and big fight poise. On the other, you have Jake Paul, the disruptor who has evolved from curiosity to legitimate contender in the crossover space. A clean, convincing performance for either man reshapes narratives. If Paul controls a fight and wins clearly, it amplifies the calls for bigger names and moves a hypothetical Canelo-Alvarez clash from wild idea into a credible business proposition. If Davis shows that timing and skill can erase a physical gap, it reaffirms what boxing purists have always believed. Elite fundamentals travel regardless of size. What about the closing weeks of camp? Neither team is offering detailed playbooks, but the messaging is consistent. Paul's side emphasizes discipline, jab control, and staying measured in the pocket. Davis's camp focuses on entries, exit routes, and turning Paul's feet at angles he hasn't seen consistently in fights. Expect both to keep their sparring partners and tactical specifics under wraps until after the final bell. That secrecy is part of the game, especially when fan sentiment swings with every clip that lands online. Crawford's prediction adds weight because of who he is. Terence Crawford is one of the sport's most complete fighters, a man who's unified titles and risen to the biggest occasions. When he says Paul's size and right hand could flip the night, people listen. It doesn't mean Davis is outgunned, but it underlines a hard truth about boxing. When you change the physical equation enough, strategies have to adapt to survive. Crawford's perspective also lines up with what Paul himself keeps saying. This isn't about gimmicks anymore. He knows what Tank brings, and he believes the blend of his current frame, improving mechanics, and patience gives him a real shot. Paul's comments on Canelo Alvarez also helped frame the stakes beyond Miami. He called the fight massive and an amazing challenge, pairing market reality with competitive desire. The Riyadh season agreement has obviously shaped Canelo's calendar, and with 2 fights still to go, any cross-promotional blockbuster would require significant coordination. Turki Al-Sheikh has shown he can stage the biggest events in the sport, and if Paul handles his business on November 14th, you can bet those conversations will pick up steam again. Until then, Paul has to keep the blinders on. Nothing looks bigger than Davis right now. For Davis, the motivation is straightforward. He's built his brand on being the guy who delivers, no matter the stakes. Fans tune in because they expect him to solve problems violently. In an exhibition with a much larger man, the risks are different, but the goal is the same. He'll want to walk out of Miami with a statement win and a fresh set of highlights that remind everyone why he's a fixture near the top of pound-for-pound lists. He doesn't need to win internet debates about size. He needs to win exchanges and then win the night. One of the underappreciated wrinkles is the lead hand battle. As a southpaw, Davis will be looking to get his lead foot outside of Paul's, open a lane for the straight left, and beat Jake to the angle on entries. Paul, as an orthodox fighter, will want to keep the jab live, threaten the straight right, and pivot to his own left to take away Tank's best path. Whoever wins, that mini-fight will control which punches are available. If Paul freezes Tank with a disciplined jab and body feints, the right hand becomes a real threat. If Tank wins the foot battle early, he reduces the ring size instantly, and Paul will be forced to clinch or take risks he doesn't want. That's why Crawford's comment about the right hand resonated. Jake Paul's power isn't theoretical. He separated fighters from their senses with that shot, and even when the knockout doesn't come, the respect it commands changes how opponents behave. The question is whether he can set it up against a faster, more nuanced opponent who lives on anticipation. Davis has made a career of seeing that first move and punishing the second. His counters don't need full wind-up. A clean left hand from Tank at the right moment can end a night regardless of what the scales said the day before. With less than a month to go, all the storylines are converging. Netflix live boxing on a big stage, the Casillas Center crowd in Miami, a cruiserweight size frame across from a lightweight champion with a world-class finishing instinct, and an all-time great like Terence Crawford adding his voice to the conversation. The noise is loud, but the assignment for both men is simple. For Paul, stay structured, don't overreach, and let the fight come to you. For Davis, get inside clean, burn the body, and make the speed gap the dominant narrative. We'll be in your feed with updates from Fight Week, including weigh-in results, final face-off notes, and the top moments from Media Day. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and tell us below who wins Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis on November 14th at the Casillas Center. Does Terence Crawford have it right? Or does Tank prove that elite skill can delete a size advantage? Leave your round-by-round picks in the comments. Share this with a friend who loves boxing, and we'll see you on Fight Night.